What's up, I'm Patrick and welcome to ISW Reacts. Today I'm reacting to Ren Money Game Part 3. If you haven't seen my reactions to the previous two parts, go check them out. I had a lot of fun with them, really enjoyed going into the lyrics, love the message he's giving with this trilogy so far. And now I'm excited to check out the final part.
Tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. 1 year old and his first words were mine, mine, gimme. 2 years old he was walking, 3 years old walking quickly. 4 years old he was running round the pavements of his city. 5 years old and his daddy told him, listen here son, you gotta learn to be a man. A man, he works for what he wants. 6 years old and he's reading, writing, top of the bunch. And when he's 7, his progression made him student number 1. 8 years old and he's praised for unusual grades. 9, his parents paid for private school to nurture the flame. 10, 11, 12, 13, he ascends and ascends. His daddy tells him, son, money is the means to all ends. 14, solving complex mathematical equations. At 15, IQ 150, still elevating. 16, he develops complex software code that detects weaknesses in cybersecurity protocols. 17, and he sells his vision, keeping the share. Not yet an adult, but he's practically a millionaire. 18, and his daddy tells him, now you're a man. This world don't give a damn about you, so take all that you can. 19, he turns a profit, stocks and shares, invest in product. 20, double down deposits. 21, his income rockets. 22, he learns the truth is just an obstacle to wealth. If you manipulate the data, then the lie will sell itself. 23, a life of luxury, crystal and cocaine. 24, he makes the Forbes list, they're applauding his name. 25, and his daddy tells him, listen here son, while you're sitting in that palace, that don't mean that you won. 26, a business shift, he switches business to arms. He's 27, dealing nuclear and shells in Iran. 28, inside the Senate, money bought him a seat. He's He's 29, a role of counsel in the president's suite. Now he's 30, his daddy says you're losing the race. You're just a servant to the king, not even in second place. 31, a big maneuver for his daddy's approval. Moving imports over borders from the exports out of Cuba. 32, moving grams, growing kilos to tons. He's 33, filling warehouses with powder and guns. 34, turf war with nobody to stop it. Blind eye from the po-po inside of his pocket. "35, he gets the call. I'm sorry, son, but it's your father. Had a heart attack, I'm sorry, he's gone. 36, getting pissed off, abusing his product. 37, eyes glazed, disposition demonic. 38, with a prostitute, a moment of passion. Heating up a silver spoon and then chasing the dragon. 39, getting reckless and hungry for power. Daddy's words are still driving him to kill and devour. Makes a move against the cartel, but the strategy's flawed. They retaliate and leave him in a hospital ward. A bullet buried in his vertebra and one in his leg. The doctor sighs and says, I don't think you'll be walking again. Fuck.
Really interesting storytelling. It's really different.
Let me tell you a story about a boy named Jimmy. He was 40 and he cursed the words, mine, mine, gimme. 41, he wasn't walking. 42, not walking quickly. 43, never running round the pavements of his city. 44, inside a palace with a mountain of gold. But those riches turn to rubble when perspective evolves. Weighing heavy on his conscience is the value of gold. Lamborghini for a life, trading money for souls. Jimmy followed the code inside the land of the free. Put your hand inside the cookie jar, take more than you need. And his example is exaggerated versions of me. And it's a version of him, and it's a version of she, and it's a version of you. There's no escaping the blame. The way we live is parasitic. Fuck the money and fame. Cut the music. This isn't entertainment. This is real life. The way we live is lunacy, community, it declines. Hyperpolarized, always fighting, then we divide. Truth is less important than the money that we designed. Money's an invention. Politics from our invention. They all come from people's ideas. Did I mention? Border's an invention. Law and order fuel the tension. It leads to people killing each other. My solution? Everything is subject to change. We could build utopias if individuals were taught to use their brains. But if we teach kids in schools to always be sheep and put themselves before the herd if there's more money for me, then there's no future I see where the humans survive. We're parasites inside a petri dish with cannibal minds. Mold will grow upon the surface then consumes till it dies. And our fate could be the same without this story to the wise. "45, Jimmy comes home out of the rain, soaking wet upon a wheelchair, drinking again. He is everything he wants, he is fortune and fame. He's a fortunate fool with an unfortunate fate. With a 45 caliber aimed at his brain. 45 a fitting number cause his age is the same. Here's the words of his father. is such a damn shame. Then he presses on the trigger of a money game.
Okay. Wow. I didn't expect this trilogy to have an emotional twist and an emotional ending. It's definitely different than the previous two parts in structure, in lyrical style, in music. The song didn't even have a chorus, but it also didn't need one. I just saw that this song was 9 minutes long. I didn't pay attention to that before. So a 9-minute video, of course, some parts without music, but still a 9-minute video without like a chorus, but with so many variations, so many shifts in the music, so much depth in the lyrics, such a great music video that altogether really captures you and draws you in. I loved the music, the piano in the first part, the strings that gave a really emotional lift to the part that was the most emotional part lyrics-wise as well. And the shift in tone and the stylistic choice of cutting off the music for that one part has such a big impact and creates even more awareness when he's directly speaking to the listener. Of course, as always, Ren using his voice, his breath, like emphasizing different parts, having those flow variations, then this more like spoken word part when the music cut off, having some pauses, setting accentuations, all that drives the emotional impact the song has. Like I said, I also really like the music video. It's great that they were able to film a video again, like the one before. They couldn't do it because of the COVID pandemic, I think. But for this song, it just gives an extra touch to everything. It's shot really cool. It underlines the lyrics by showing what's happening in the song. That's an awesome video. And it's once again a really interesting and creative way that Ren uses to tell a story. This chronological life story of Jimmy from the innocent childhood to this tragic adult conclusion, used as a symbol and an illustration for the dangers of capitalist aspiration and greed. It's an awesome final chapter for this trilogy, turning this societal critique build up in the two previous parts into one life story, shaped, twisted, and ultimately destroyed by the logic of capitalism. Like in my reactions to the previous two parts, I think I'm gonna go through the lyrics again a little bit and read them a little more closely, because these songs all have so much value and so much content that I couldn't remember everything he said in those 9 minutes, and I think it's worth giving the lyrics a little more attention. What stands out in the first years of his life is that his upbringing mirrors the systemic indoctrination and capitalist conditioning. Already with 5 years, his innocent childhood is interrupted and corrupted with the importance of competition and performance, and that's a big problem in my eyes. All this problematic thinking that's also following in the song doesn't come from nowhere. It's taught. The following academic success shows that he's smart, ambitious, disciplined, but the education isn't seen as knowledge for growth or personal or societal improvements, but as performance, competitiveness, and a pipeline into the system. Personally, I can only talk about the education system in Germany that rewards people that obey the rules and fit into the system. It sorts and filters people into roles the system needs and doesn't care for individual strengths or interests. And especially not for something that may be more fulfilling for a student. At least in Germany, and I can imagine in many other countries as well, education rewards obedience and conformity rather than creativity and individuality. Also, it's shown in this song that people with money just have more possibilities by sending their kids to a private school, potentially giving them a better education in those really expensive private schools, maybe even already networking with other future important persons, and by all that already creating a lot of inequality. Then there's the whole story of how he gets rich and how he finally gets confirmation through that by his dad. Also, his dad then gives him maybe the worst advice I've ever heard, that the world doesn't care about him and that he should take as much as he can. That's such a sad worldview, actually, and I can't even understand that a little bit, because it instills distrust of community, solidarity, and collective care. The next part is an evolution into this post-truth capitalism where disinformation works as a profit tool. And this is actually a first step in this moral decay that's following in the next lines, because I don't think I have to explain why I find arms dealing, exploitation of wars, and manipulation of global politics for money morally reprehensible. It just shows that profit under capitalism doesn't just corrupt, it actually kills. And those people who benefit from these wars are, of course, interested in keeping them going. And because they also have so much power, they don't just profit, they are actively making sure that there are wars. I also really like the callback to the previous part about selling shells in Iran. The theme that money buys power, I just mentioned and also talked about in my previous reactions, is also picked up by Ren before he continues to describe the ethical collapse of Jimmy, fueled by greed and the hunger for more power. The death of Jimmy's father, who I read as a patriarch who instilled this greed in the first place, leaves Jimmy without a direction. It kind of shows the cycle of inherited ideology and the risk of personal collapse when the source of that is gone. Addiction and decadence follow and kind of show how capitalism cannibalizes its own when there's no external enemy left to exploit, that just continues with its own participants. And then the climax of the part shows capitalist competition in an extreme way, make more money or more power at all costs, even if it's dangerous. And then he ends up in a wheelchair. The second part shows the beginning of regret and that he realizes that material wealth can't replace moral or communal value. And then there's this awesome change from narrating to speaking about and to us as listeners. The point he makes that Jimmy is an exaggerated version of all of us feeds into the points he made before, also in the previous parts, with this pointing the mirrors at ourselves and we're all part of this money game. I already talked about that a little more, I think, in the first part, where I said that that's true to an extent, in my opinion, but it also doesn't mean that we are not allowed to criticize people that should be held accountable. Then there's this amazing break in the story that I mentioned before quickly, where the music is cut off and he's straightly addressing the listener. It's about the alienation and decline of social fabric and morality under capitalism. The constructs we created, like money or borders, are artificial at the end of the day and now dominate us. They serve the interests of the ruling class and not of humanity. He gets back to the point he made before about education as indoctrination into compliance instead of developing own ideas and ideologies, and then closes the part by telling, if profit remains the logic of society, it will lead to an ecological and social collapse. He gets back to the story of Jimmy again, showing the paradox of capitalism, like having everything material but nothing of value. He finally just sees this one way out, and that shows that this money game always ends in collapse, even for the winners of the system. And the last line is also a great callback again. I think the same line was used in both previous parts before. Like I said before, in summary, I think it's an awesome, perfect completion of the trilogy. After showing the political hypocrisy and the mechanics of capitalism in theory in the first parts, he shows the effects of that in a human story and explains with that example what will happen inevitably if we don't change our course. Wow, okay, I just realized I was yapping for so long again about this topic, but I just have a lot of fun with this, and it's an awesome trilogy. Thank you very much again for recommending it in the first place. Those were 3 amazing songs with a topic that I'm really interested in. If you haven't seen that already, let me know in the comments what I should react to next. Also, let me know what you think about this trilogy, about this part. Do you agree? Do you disagree with points Ren makes or with things I have said? I always like to read your thoughts and your arguments. If you have any other standpoints, maybe let me know. Also, if you've enjoyed this reaction, please leave a like, consider subscribing, and thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.